The problem with critical race theory is not so much the premise of what it's based on. Applying alternative historical and cultural perspectives from traditionally marginalized groups into the mainstream. That's the premise. The premise thereof is of no fault and is designed with the best of intentions to promote interracial and intersectional harmony. Where the issue comes from lies within the execution and practice of CRT, especially with a lack of situational historical context and various nuances by its practitioners in terms of framing historical and contemporary culture as permanently affixed in concrete absolutes without recognizing historical fluidity absent of applying a wholesale dialectical method relative to material conditions and ever-changing cultural norms, whilst treading on complete historical revisionism at times. The norms and standards of 2021 are not the same as the norms and standards of 1921, 1821, or 1721, and so on and so forth. An American progressive liberal, or a conservative for that matter, living in 2021, magically transported to London in 1665, would find a world without modern medicine, internet, private electricity, adequate postage systems, capitalism, as feudalism ruled the day, communist theory, modern music, mass communication, or any modern materialistic necessities or utilities. Instead, they would find a world plunged in darkness, disease, religious superstition, witchcraft burnings, rigid caste systems, mass unsanitation, and by people who thought everyone outside their context was strange and animalistic. And guess what? That same person from 2021, I should say, who was transported to London would then be magically transported to Tenochtitlan. And guess what they would see? They would see indigenous Mesoamericans plunged in the same things. Darkness, disease, which existed before Europeans came. It did. Religious superstition in the form of sun worship, human sacrifices, including child sacrifice, rigid caste systems, and ruled by people who thought everyone outside their context was strange and animalistic. The world that was yesterday is not the world that we know today, and the world that we know today will not be the same world tomorrow. Historical progress is fluid. People change. Cultures change. We learn from our mistakes and ignorance, and we try to do better. But if you tell that to the academics and activists who postulate and misuse CRT, they will say, "No, you're wrong. That's not true. People are just as evil and backwards today as they were 500 years ago." When that knee-jerk reaction is nonsensical and irresponsible. The most dangerous thing about how critical race theory is practiced, or about how, in regards to how it is practiced, is that by demonizing cultural moderates in 2021, being as backward as the people who lived in 1551, such as fostering and encouraging the growth of an extremely dangerous and extremely reactionary counter-revolutionary counterculture, born not necessarily out of ideology. That's not to say that false ideologies don't play a factor. QAnon, they do. But out of spite and resentment. The right wing should never, ever be the counterculture. Ever. But let me frame it in this way. How does the view of Patricia Cullors, who owns multiple million-dollar properties just for being an academic who coined the term Black Lives Matter, translate with middle Americans who are working 2 to 3 jobs barely above minimum wage and blaming socialism for the problems that neoliberalism causes? This is not 1951. This is not Leave It to Beaver mainstream middle America. The upper levels of capital have integrated. We are post-Barack Obama, for Christ's sakes. And the upper levels of capital have even applied critical race theory to their corporate branding. While, on the down low, they still fund racist police departments, Coca-Cola. Neoliberalism, for a vast majority of people in the United States, has reduced this country to a shell of its former self, and the 1950s myth of the American dream, the nuclear family, the 3-bedroom house, the white picket fence, the 2.5 kids supported by one income, while it was historically inaccessible for BIPOC communities, that is true, at that time, and up relatively until like the 1990s, due to redlining and real estate manipulation and banking manipulation of all that nasty institutional racist stuff. That myth of middle America is dead to the people living in the trailer parks of rural Kentucky and West Virginia, and dead to the people living in the Rust Belt of the Midwest. And by people, I mean Caucasian people. And while they see their materialistic conditions continue to decline, here they see Patricia Cullors self-righteously pontificating about how they are responsible for the entire history of historical inequities of BIPOC communities suffered at the hands of colonists and, white supremacist old Confederates at the time, which they weren't even around to initiate. And you know what happens? They double down in their backwardness. They don't become enlightened. Instead, they become the very thing that they are being accused of, and their children become even worse, embracing unacceptable philosophies that should have been dead since 1945. Should this new generation of countercultural fascists ever gain access to institutional power, they would do great harm to those who critical race theory is supposedly attempting to platform and help. Once again, critical race theory is not flawed philosophically. It is flawed in practice, and adjustments need to be implemented by the academic and activist communities to ensure that they don't wind up unintentionally harming those who they are attempting to uplift. Everyone deserves to have their narrative to be heard and understood. Intersectionality is a good thing when it is applied alongside of wholesale dialectical materialism. When intersectionality takes the place of dialectical materialism, then it can be weaponized by the bourgeois as a means to disintegrate proletarian class cohesion as a method to preserve its own interests. And even more sinisterly, be presented as a form of Marxism itself, when CRT in and of itself is not primarily concerned with the dialectical method other than the dialectical method as relative to the superstructure, and can be used as a method to discourage middle America from embracing collective solutions as a method to solve the problem that neoliberalism has been causing. The academics and activists who tell everyone that they need to do better themselves, because they are feeding a neo-fascist menace that should not exist in 2021. Don't change the theory, adjust the practice. That is all. Like and share, especially on Facebook, since I'm banned for 30 days, if you feel obligated to. This is Comrade Pella, signing off.